Welcome back to my channel. I'm Cassandra, and this is Homeschool Peace. Whether you are new to homeschooling or you've been at this for many years, the very first month of a new school year can have some growing pains. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you my first month of homeschooling survival guide. The very first tip I have for you is don't start everything on the very first day of school. Add things as you go. There's no reason why you need to bring in every single subject and extracurricular activities as well as electives all on that very first day. A full homeschool year is definitely a long distance race. It is not a sprint. And if you try to pile everything on those first couple weeks of school, you are definitely going to get burnt out really quickly, and so are your kids. So really take a look at your curriculum and focus on what you would say is the core of your subjects. For you, maybe that's language arts and history and math and science. Only do those subjects for the first few weeks. Once you get your routine established with your kids, then go ahead and start bringing in maybe one at a time, an elective or an extracurricular activity. And maybe that means that your child doesn't end up starting fall soccer and ends up doing more of a spring soccer or maybe gymnastics, waits for a month. Really just focus on keeping things calm and peaceful for those first few weeks and get everyone used to the new routine before you start bringing everything in and signing up for every extracurricular activity. That brings me to tip number 2 is don't get discouraged when it doesn't look like what you planned. When you're having kids starting homeschooling that were in a traditional school setting, it is going to take them at least 4, maybe 6 weeks just to get used to a new routine and that mom or maybe dad is the teacher. They're not used to how it feels to homeschool within their house and how to really work through their new curriculum. So know that there are going to be days they are going to push back to you. They are going to have their frustrations as well as you're just working with different people and different skill sets. So don't get frustrated when it doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look like and you start feeling frustrated. Just give yourself some grace and know that your schedule will eventually just start rolling and you'll get into a groove and things will be more what you expect after you get through that first month or so of homeschooling. So my tip number 3 is don't try to recreate a public school setting within your house. So this one, especially for parents who are bringing their kids into their homes this first year, you don't need to set timers and have a full schedule, and they're not going to have a schedule that looks like the public school, that they're going from morning to late afternoon. Their schedule will be shorter and their day isn't going to feel the same. And you don't need to require kids to raise hands or to respond how they would do in a public school. The freedom of homeschooling is that you can make it how you want. You can school on the sofa, you can school at a park, and you don't want to feel restricted, feeling like you need to create a public school right into your home. So tip number 4 is to go to bed early and to wake up early. I know that means we might lose out on a little bit of our adult time that we have when our kids go to bed, but if you can sacrifice a little bit of that time and get in bed early, setting an alarm clock, waking up early, you can get yourself set up for success in the morning and you can feel better when teaching your kids. Later in the afternoon, you're not going to lose your patience as easily because you're going to feel rested. So really for that first month, make sure you're taking care of yourself and giving yourself some extra rest. That brings me to my tip number 5 is to when you are preparing for the night before, or maybe it's in the morning that you're reviewing what you're going to be teaching for that day, really try to only read one lesson at a time. So when we get that curriculum box that comes in and it's so exciting and everything's sparkly and new, we have a tendency that we want to read through a bunch of the curriculum and look ahead. That can somewhat overwhelm you because there's just so much and you haven't actually started teaching it, and sometimes you just get confused and you're like, I don't know if I can actually do this. So I really recommend just reading one lesson at a time. Maybe it's the night before, getting planned, pulling any of the papers that you need for that one lesson, and then when you're done with it, then move on. As you move through later through the year and you get comfortable with your curriculum, it's fine to look ahead and to look farther ahead in the lessons, but really for that first month when you're getting used to new curriculum, really just read one lesson at a time. And that brings me to tip number 6, is for in your home for that first month, especially for the first 1 or 2 weeks. Pick really easy meals for your family, whether this is freezer meals, a lasagna, a pizza, you're ordering some food. Choose for the first week or 2 to make things easier at night. So when you're going through and you have that full day of teaching and you're getting things set up and you have the afternoon that you're working through your final things with schooling and you're just getting a routine established with your kids, you then don't need to worry about what are you eating for dinner. So just choose easy meals for those first few weeks. For my tip number 7 is be prepared when you hit a day that you want to quit. You are going to have really hard days that pop up here and there. You're going to have great days too. But when you hit a day that you're just so frustrated and you just feel like, oh, I want to quit, what's really helpful is before that day happens is to write down some thoughts of why you're homeschooling. Create a vision for your homeschooling for the year so that when you hit that day, instead of being just so frustrated you want to give up, go back to that journal or maybe have it posted in your homeschool room that you can look at and then ground yourself into why am I doing this? And it's really going to help you get through those days. Even though I love homeschooling and it's something I really feel called to do, I still have days that I hit that. And for me, it always happens right in around October and happens right in March every year. The new and shininess of the homeschool year is sort of worn off, or maybe for March, you've already gotten through the holidays and there's not a lot of exciting things going on. And I just get really frustrated and I might have a bad day with my kids and I'm just like, oh, I just want to quit. And I can go right back to my journal. I can take a few breaths and say, this is my vision and this is why I'm doing this. And that's really just helps me get through those moments. And so related to that is my tip number 8, and it's my final tip, is to take days off when you need it. When you're a homeschooler, you're not restricted by a set schedule of 180 days. You have flexibility with your school, whether that means that you school on a Saturday or maybe you go a little bit later in the school year, you can move days around. And so because of that, if you hit that moment where you're like, I just want to quit, maybe that's the day to just take a day or 2 off and just take a breather, or maybe take a field trip with your kids that day. Know that it is okay to take breaks. And then even for starting the school year for that first month, when you're just adjusting to a schedule, it is okay if you maybe have one day you start and then you take the next day off, and then maybe you start, again on Wednesday and then take Thursday off and then go again on Friday. You can stagger your days as you start your school year, and then obviously move into a rhythm and a routine for your schedule for your year. But it's okay to just take a day off when you need it. So if you are a veteran homeschooler and you have some tips or ideas of what really helps you for your first year homeschooling, leave those comments below. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you as well. And before you leave, don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks. Goodbye.